This is the Christmas Movie Screenwriter Podcast, episode number 21. Hello, and welcome to the Christmas Movie Screenwriter Podcast. I'm your host, Karen McCann. The Christmas Movie Screenwriter is a podcast about writing, producing, and selling Christmas movies. You can find a transcript, show notes, and an action checklist on my website at www.christmasmoviescreenwriter.com and look for this episode, which is number 21. A quick few words about what I'm working on. My faith-based script, my first one, which is called The Prayer Experiment, is now out to producers, and I hope to have some news soon. And I'm also working on my first novel, and it's very exciting. It's based on a crime thriller script that I wrote, and I'm learning a lot about self-publishing, about marketing, and it's really a fun adventure. So I hope to have more news about this soon. And now, here is the main segment. Karen Shaler is a three-time Emmy Award-winning screenwriter, producer, best-selling author, journalist, and national TV host. She has written feel-good, uplifting movies for Netflix, Hallmark, and Lifetime, including the Netflix hit A Christmas Prince, which started the franchise. She has also written 7 best-selling Christmas novels, a top 10 Audible original Christmas rom-com, and during the Writers Guild strike last year, she created her first Christmas coloring book for adults, inspired by her Christmas movies and novels. Karen is also the creator of Christmas camp experiences at hotels and resorts around the world, bringing her Christmas camp Hallmark movie and books to life. She is also the creator and host of Travel Therapy TV, traveling to more than 68 countries, featuring the most inspiring and empowering places to visit on what you're going through in life. From working as a journalist, as a TV war correspondent in Bosnia and Afghanistan, to creating her travel therapy TV shows and writing Christmas movies, novels, and audio projects, Karen is a prolific and passionate storyteller. Well, Karen, I think prolific is actually an understatement, but welcome to the podcast.
Oh my goodness, Karen, first of all, we have 2 Karens, and can we just tell everybody we are good Karens?
Yeah.
We both have a problem with people picking on our names, and I don't want to be a Karen by saying that, but let's just say we are good Karens, and we will let that topic go, because I've been nicknamed Christmas Karen, and it's a good thing, guys, a good thing.
Yay, good. Well, Karen, you have an amazing background, but let's tell the audience, share your journey about breaking into the industry as a Christmas movie screenwriter.
Oh, thank you. And, I feel so blessed, because I always tell people to, write what you love. And I love Christmas movies, and obviously, and you read a little bit about my background. And when I was a journalist, I think once a journalist, always a journalist. Now I'm researching Christmas, which is so fun. But when I was a journalist, I was a crime reporter, and I was an investigative reporter, and a White House correspondent at one point.
Wow.
And I was an embedded war correspondent, as you mentioned. And so I was really looking at the darkest in humanity and the most difficult stories to tell every night. And what I would use as an escape, especially at the holidays, were those feel-good, fun rom-coms. And Hallmark did it so beautifully. And it's a family tradition to sit around and watch, cuddle up with the cookies and the cocoa, maybe a little mimosa, on Christmas morning, and watch the Hallmark movies. And so when I had an opportunity, after I left Afghanistan, I did a documentary there. I had been in the TV news business for quite a while, and I wanted to change. I wanted to start telling stories that inspired and empowered people, instead of, quite frankly, depressing people, which is the kind of news I was telling. And so I started doing travel, which was one of I call it travel therapy. That's my brand. Okay. And as you talked about, it's like picking places that you need to go if you're stressed or looking for romance or things like that, because travel had been my therapy. So I was traveling, I had moved to New York City, and I'm going to all these amazing places. But I had a medical condition where I couldn't travel for about 6 weeks. And it was right around the holidays. And I thought, well, I don't sit still well if you know me for a minute and you can hear how fast I talk. So I apologize ahead for that. But, I like to keep moving. So I was watching all my favorite Christmas movies. I had always wanted to write one. I had taken one screenwriting class in college. It was always a passion of mine, but I thought, I don't know anyone in Hollywood. I kind of am the girl from nothing and nowhere. So I just thought maybe I could travel the world, be a journalist, and then be a writer, write books, write my movies at some point. Well, all of a sudden I was forced not to like leave my apartment in Manhattan, which is the size of a thimble. And I thought, okay, I'm watching these things. I thought, I can write one. I'm going to write one. This is my time. So I studied it like I would study an investigative report. I watched about 7 or 8 Hallmark movies. I had my notepad. I wrote down, okay, the first commercial break doesn't come for almost 18 and a half minutes. The guy and the girl are meeting in the first 10 minutes. I just studied the formula. And we'll talk about that, how people think there's a formula and whether there is or isn't, and because things have changed a lot. But I really studied it. Plus, I watched it. So they say, write what you know. I knew the genre. I had read romantic comedies, romance my whole life. And so I sat down and wrote my first movie. And I thought, okay, well, how do I do this? Which I know we're going to, break down. So I won't, go too much into that. But I did look up like the top people that made the movies that I loved. And I just reached out. It's like some people said I was so bold. I didn't have a manager and agent. I'm like, you don't know what you don't know. So I wasn't intimidated or scared. I just thought, hey, maybe I can find a home for this. Plus, I was really bored sitting in my apartment, not able to travel. And so I was reaching out to people. A lot of times people didn't answer, what have you. But I found somebody that said, wait, not sure how you got a hold of me, but it sounds like this is exactly what we do. It was a production company that we make. Why don't you send me your script? And so it happened very fast after that. That was like a Friday. On Monday, I talked. My script was actually not a Christmas script, my original script. And they said, okay, this is great. Well, do you have anything Christmas and do you have anything royal? And I, being a smart screenwriter or journalist, of course, I had nothing royal. Royal wasn't my thing, but I'm like, yes, I can do that. I can do that. And it was right before Christmas. And so he said, let's talk after the holidays. And so I spent a couple weeks in isolations. It was kind of self-imposed, and that's when I wrote A Christmas Prince, which became Netflix's first original Christmas movie, which was a really great thing because when the time that I wrote it, Netflix wasn't someone you would pitch because they weren't buying original Christmas movies. So I wrote it for Hallmark and I thought it was going to Hallmark. So nobody was more surprised than the writer when I find out it's at Netflix. So then I quickly went and wrote what I thought would be a Netflix movie and it ended up as going to Hallmark.
Oh, really? Really?
That is how I broke in. And then it happened really fast. I did 4 movies in about 18 months. So I did movies for Netflix, Hallmark, and Lifetime. And once you're in the little inner circle, because it does move so fast, and I also write as fast as I talk. And that's the industry that you need it, because you're shooting these things in 16 days. So it was I felt so blessed. And then the reason I have the books, if you happen to be watching this, if you're listening, I have a kind of a bookcase full of Christmas books that I have written, which wasn't a part of the immediate plan. But after I wrote my first movie, again, remember, I had no film school, really didn't know, all of the ins and outs. And I was surprised at how little the writer was involved in a feature. You wrote it, yay, we're buying it. And then it's off with the director and the actors and everyone. And you're kind of left out of that unless you're a top big name, or something. But generally speaking, and I remember understanding it was a collaboration and they know better how to make it a movie, but I felt kind of left out. And so I remember talking to somebody and they said, well, if you want to be involved in your story, then be an author because then you can write everything. And so they said, write your movies and your books. And you'll hear other screenwriters, I'm sure, say it's a therapy because you write a movie and it gets changed a million ways. And a lot of times you hopefully are involved in that process, but you're changing it to fit, whether it be the algorithms, the marketing, the actor, you never know who you're changing it for.
Right.
And that's the name of the game. And if you don't like it, then don't be a screenwriter, but then you can go write your book.
Yes.
And so what I've done is I've written movies first and then I write the book versions. And like Every Day is Christmas, which was my 3rd movie, which was Lifetime, starring the amazing Toni Braxton. I wrote that movie first. And then last year, you can't see it if I'm holding up my Every Day is Christmas book. And this is actually an ornament that's in the movie. It's a Crystal Heart ornament for those of you listening.
Okay.
And it was really a healing process as well. I had such a great experience on that movie. I got to be on the set. I got to be involved.
Oh,
That was the one
good,
I got to be
good,
involved in.
good.
And from the directors to the production company to, executive producers to Toni Braxton herself and Gloria Rubin and Michael J. White, they were so amazing. I stayed out of the way, but I learned so much. And so then to be able to write the book, I could just do more. I didn't have to worry about budgets or things like that. And so
Right.
that is the very long answer, the longest answer you'll get of how I went from being a war correspondent to
Yeah,
Christmas
yeah,
Karen,
yes.
So
That's
it's
good.
a
That's
journey, but
good.
I know every time I tell the version of a story, people say it's inspiring, knowing they can be anything right now listening. And if you have a story in your heart and you love Christmas and you're willing to do the work, because it is work, it seems like
Right,
fun,
right.
but again, I did a lot of research, a lot of time to put into that, even though it looked like I had all this immediate success. We're talking 10, 15 years of watching, researching,
Right,
knowing who I
right.
am as a writer and having a voice and having interesting characters to write about. That was all. I'm glad that I'm not, 19 or 20 years old breaking into the business, which
Yeah.
I think is awesome, but I'm
Right.
older, so I have a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So I'm ready. I'm ready.
kudos to you for writing those books. I'll just say quickly that a book, maybe your script was 20,000 words, but a regular book is going to be 60,000. It's like
Oh,
writing 4 scripts.
yeah, like 100,000,
Well,
more like
100,000. Okay.
95, 100,000. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. And it's also, as you know, screenwriting is mostly a lot of dialogue, and you
Right,
have to,
right,
find the little words to catch the magic of the director and the actors and all these little, it's like a puzzle. How
right,
can I put the least amount of words in a script so
right.
everyone's inspired and sees a story and gets a spark? But it's a lot of dialogue. I love talking. I was a
Yeah,
reporter. I love
yeah,
listening. Yeah, I like
yeah.
going to a cafe and just listening to people talk so I can sort of get a vibe if I'm writing about somewhere in the South, or if I'm writing about 20-year-olds and I'm no longer 20, or the other side, if I'm writing about elderly folks and I'm like,
Mm,
hey, I want to make sure that I'm in the voice and the tone. It's still a Karen Shaler story, but I want to be able to speak. You don't want,
right.
and I also never speak too trendy. What movie was so cute that was just out of romantic comedy, but he threw one of the latest phrases, like it wasn't this, but it's like, that's a dumpster fire, meaning a hot
Yeah,
mess. Well,
right,
in a couple, 5, 6 years when that movie comes out,
right.
like a Harry Met Sally 20 something years later, when you say dumpster fire, people are going to go, what is that? Or
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
And it kind of ages you. So when I say listening to people for dialogue, I just mean listening to cadence and trends and just how people speak in improper English. I love it
Right.
when I will have someone read my script and they go, oh, there's a grammar error. It should be either, not neither, or the other way around. I'm like, that's not how
Mm,
people talk.
right,
There's
right, right,
incomplete sentences. People are imperfect. I certainly
right.
am.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, my hat's off to you. I mean, all this fantastic writing, and your huge success with Christmas movies, which leads to my question: how do you balance meeting audience expectations while staying fresh and not predictable or cliche?
Oh, that's such a good question, Karen, because I feel like I would love to tell you that when I first sat down that I was thinking of the audience first, and
Mhm.
that would be amazing. But it's not. I think, to be honest, from a writer, the story is usually in my soul somewhere. This sounds really corny, but it's totally true, people. I swear. It's inside of me, and the story needs to come out. Now, I hope and pray that it also will resonate with an audience. But I say the 1 minute I step back and try to read minds of an audience and figure out what people want, I'm not a fortune teller,
Right, right,
I'd
right.
probably hit the mark. It wouldn't be authentic to me. And I know when you go in a room and if there's 15 people pitching a script and they're all about a small town and a woman and the same, that moves from the big city and, to find her ex-boyfriend or yada, 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 what makes them different? And it's usually when it's your personal experience and your passion to tell that
Right,
story, it's
right.
something that for a spark. So for me, that's what's really made it different. So when I sit down, I just think what comes to me first, and I always see the beginning and the end. So I do not outline unless I'm being paid. I am in the Writers Guild, and so
Right.
I do get paid to write outlines. But
Okay.
personally, I find that my characters sort of have a world of their own. That said, I'm cheating a little because some people go, "Oh, how do you do it?" My brain sees an outline. I see the beginning. I see the meet cute. I see the
Okay.
act two. I know 4 or 5 things that I know are going to elevate and move the story forward, but I always know the ending. Like, I love the ending. And when I do my books, I work on the cover art before I write the story because I see it. You
Okay.
know, it's even when I was
Okay.
working with
Okay.
HarperCollins, they were really kind to let me, say, hey, here's my vision. This is what I have. I would send them like stuff from Pinterest or, whatever. I'd be putting together a mock. I'm not an artist. All of my book covers, I have put together the mock of it. And my artists, my God, poor things, they're like, well, some of them are like, this is great. We have a place to start, but I'm like literally the dogs on my stories. I have found them on Shutterstock and said, I want this dog, this type of
Oh,
dog. No, its
okay.
eyes don't look good. I want these eyes, So I really care, I think, about the visual. So that's the long answer, my passionate answer to that, what just comes from my heart, which is how I always speak. But what I mean is, I think if I was teaching a class and I needed to be a little bit more breaking down to be helpful to someone else, I would say first, write the story that you have to write the story that is sticky, meaning it's in your head, you can't get it out of your head, and write the story you're passionate about and have a connection to. And in Christmas, often these stories, you can write them and it comes out that year. But if you think of it in feature, someone told me really good advice recently about a feature I was looking to write about kind of a difficult topic. And they said, just make sure when you write a feature film that you're ready to live in that world for the next 7, 8 years or longer, because that's how long some of these movies can take to get made. And because it was a
Yikes.
challenging world that I'm already dealing with my dad and healthcare and some personal issues, I thought, oh gosh, no, I don't want to live in that world for 8 years. I'm living in it now, right? And it really was good, where Christmas is a way you can just have these stories and it's instant gratification because they
Right.
get made so quickly. There's so many people. But to the point of being fresh, that's so important to me, because not only me, I don't want to be bored. I don't want to see the same story over and over. And when I
Yes.
watch,
Yes.
whether it's Hallmark or Lifetime, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just like I said, is this another New York woman that's a stressed out person going to her small town and running to her ex at a musical? I'm like, I'm going to die, and I don't like that. So I try to
Yeah.
think of what I write a lot, what's current. I think that's my old journalism, my news reporter.
Um,
So I
right.
like riffing from the headlines, like what's
Okay.
current and topical, what
Okay.
apps came out so many years ago. I had a story of fun matchmaking and apps and, whatever it might be, because that's of today. And it's not like I'm trying to be cool. It's what people are talking about. And I want it to be relatable. So I always want characters that we see. And I'm so happy. Thank goodness, these last 4 or 5 years, the networks have done, so much better job at having diversity and just being able
Yeah.
to, let's just not see all a bunch of, I won't say, but unfortunately, I am a skinny white girl with blonde hair. But it's kind of like what we see, in some of the movies, a certain stereotype over and over and over, and even ageism, in a
Right.
lot of the
Right.
movies. So it's
Yeah.
so awesome now when they'll say, oh, we want a character instead of just mid-20s, we want a
Right.
character in the 40s. We want a character, a leading lady in their 60s. I mean, you hear actors
Yeah.
talk about it all the
Yeah.
time, top
Yeah.
actors, where are our roles? And you've seen a lot of multi-generational movies out. That's our lives. That's what I want to
Yeah.
write about. I want to write about what we see. And at the end of the day, when it comes to Christmas, this Christmas is the star. So unlike some people that jumped into the industry when movies started, making people money, and Christmas, all of a sudden Netflix and everybody got into the game, they took their old rom-com script, threw a Christmas tree in it, and
Right.
said it's
Yeah.
Christmas. But if
Right.
the heart of Christmas isn't a thread throughout, and it's got to be that beautiful, Hallmark's so good at that. Let's be honest, that just that visual. And when I was on set with Lifetime as well, it was so interesting. It was a joke, but I think one of the set designers was saying once, I overheard, hey, if it's between an actor or more Christmas lights in the budget, we're going for the more Christmas lights,
Already.
to make the
Already.
magic, just to make that. And so I think that's important. I think if all our stories are character driven, or they should be, that's why we all watch TV, right? We connect with the story the story of the character's journey. But in Christmas, we got to add that caveat is I just want it to be sparkling and beautiful and magical. And I want to see
Right.
all the
Right.
things and smell all the smells of cookies or whatever, I
Right.
want that emotion. So it adds another layer, and I'm in for it. Some people call it,
Yeah.
that's why they're corny or cheesy, or that's why they look the same. Well, we are all talking about a 1 day a year holiday.
Right. Right.
400 movies come out on about 1 day. So yeah, we're going to have some crossover for
Yeah.
sure. But I think it's really important just to really write what it's in your heart. And if you have like 5 ideas, I literally will write them down. Like, if I was picking a boyfriend, you're like, okay, here are the pros and here's the con, and which one just won't leave me alone? Which one do I just have to have, So that's how I pick. So there's an analogy for you.
I love it. I love it. Now, after you finish a script and it's ready to go out, what's your next step? How do you move it towards getting into production?
Oh, I'm in that step every day, it feels like. I was just in that step today. I am finalizing a script as we speak. I think for me, if you're starting out, in whatever level you're at, in my journey, I didn't have an agent or a manager or anyone that would help. Traditionally, once you get to be higher up and you're writing feature films, you're going to have someone on your team, a manager, an agent that kind of, once you have a script, they'll either read it. Managers are more apt to do that because they help mold you and guide you, where agents are really like, and some agents will too, but a lot of agents will say, hey, we're the ones that are going to sell it. We got to get out there and do that. And the managers, a lot of times will really help and give you notes and what have you. But I think my process is probably different than some, since I still don't have a manager and agent. And it's not because I don't believe in them. They're amazing. But I did all this by myself and it happened too fast. And then it went right into COVID. My last movie was, I think, in November of 2019. And I had a couple movies set up ready to go in 2020 when COVID hit. And so a lot of things stopped. So I never got an opportunity to get a team together. I have a great entertainment attorney because that's the one person you absolutely do need.
Okay.
More than anyone else in my life. I actually have two entertainment attorneys for different, depending on what development and, what project, what hat I'm wearing at that moment, so to speak. But I think the most important thing is you get your script and you make sure it's the best it can be. And in my case, what I will do is I have developed relationship with production companies, and we're going to, I think, talk about that later. But that's when you find out, who do you want to partner with? This script has an identity. Let's say I have 3 production companies I love. Which one would they like and I think would be a good fit for them? That's where you have to do the research. And even if you have no connections like I did not, you can read their websites. You can see the movies they're making. You can figure out kind of a vibe of, hey, they do all the dog movies, or hey, they do all the adventure movies. And, you know that Karen, from your background. There's you get kind of a niche of what people like. So then I research the right person, and I will just send, just like everybody else, an email like, hey, this is what I have. I keep it short and sweet. Whatever connection I have with them, I talk about. Let's say they just had a baby, I would, and I knew about that. I said, congratulations, that's wonderful. Or they had a movie. I always make it personal because at the end of the day, I don't want to be like, hi, here's my movie, buy it. Oh, by the way, how's your baby? I mean, that's not how I roll any day. So I'm a personable person. So I usually ask them about themselves or whatever they're doing and make sure I mention, and then say, hey, I have a new script. I think it's a great fit. And I only do a title and a log line. That's why I tell people titles and log lines sell movies. And make sure you go on IMDb and do not use the same title that's been used 45 times. And if you're using any of the AIs, which is absolutely fine to generate title ideas, why not? Here's a prompt tip for you. Say, I'm looking for a title with this and this. I want 4 words and the word Christmas. Do not use IMDb database for your answers.
Not
that ChatGPT won't still spit some out at you, but I know a lot of people, and like I said, I've done it before for fun with my book. I took one of my book blurbs on the back that's already out, and I fed it into chat because I'm like, it has it anyway. It's in the universe. It's on Amazon. It's in bookstores everywhere. I asked it to rewrite it in 4 different voices. I asked it to rewrite it in Nora Ephron. I asked it to write it in Aaron Sorkin. I asked it to just write in different people that I really admire their work. Shonda Rhimes, of course. And it was very interesting because what AI will grab all of it, the information they have of each of those people, that tone, the voice. Now, is it nailing it at perfectly? Oh, no, it's not. But let me tell you, it's a very interesting prompt to see what you could use. I write all my own material. But if someone is going to ask me to find a title that's like a crossword puzzle of, literally, I've asked one day, it can't be more than this many characters, at least 3 words with the word Christmas, but don't use love and don't use this. That's like a game. And so instead of sitting around a table with, brainstorming, spitballing with people, I'll go to ChatGPT and give them the prompt and see what it spits out to me. Just to give me ideas. And I've only found one title that way, but I found a title and I took 2 different ones and combined them together. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I'll reach out to someone with my original title that I usually find on my own and my log line and, and say, I have the spec script. And I think that's what's really key. I mean, we always talk about this, but especially if you're breaking in like I was, I broke in, I didn't have an idea. I didn't get to go to Netflix with my idea for a Christmas Prince.
Right.
To this day, I can't go to Netflix with an idea. They want a script, They want to see that you can do it. And you have to have your spec script. It's your resume. It's your calling card. And it's also gold. So producers or production companies or even actors that might never give you the time of day, if you can hook them with your hook and your script and your title, we're all salesmen. They're all going to, they're going to read it or have their assistants or their interns or their coverage people read it if they think it could be something, because everyone is rooting to find the good script. They need us. They need writers, they need
Right.
us to tell the stories. And so it's your one time in the writing journey that I feel like we have power because we have a script, and people are excited to read it. And it certainly helps when you have the right management team and, reps because they know of people that I don't know. I might research, but I'm certainly don't have my pulse on everything. So all of a sudden someone goes, oh, I hear so-and-so over there is looking for this script. Let me get it to them. That's why it's so valuable to find the right team. But I do say that managers and agents are like a relationship, and it's why I haven't rushed into anything. I have talked to some folks, and what a hard job they have. I mean, I had representation as a TV journalist when I was an on-air court TV correspondent. I was repped. So I've had the largest agency and small boutique. So I kind of know where I land, what I like. Same with literary, same with my books, same with publishing. So I kind of have weighed both. And I just think it's so important because let's say you had reached out to me about this podcast and you would reach out to my manager. And let's just say my manager wasn't the nicest person in the world. And they're like, no, Karen's very busy. She can't do this. And I would never even have heard of this request.
Right.
So I think it's really important that whoever you pick, I always tell people the only thing worse than not having a manager and agent is having the wrong one.
Right.
And, you have to break up. And, one of the podcasts I love listening to, which I'm sure every single person that listens, if you don't, you should, is Script Notes, with John August and Craig Mazin. I mean, they're amazing. And it helped me through the pandemic. And they always talk about, agents are great, but you have to have the right one. And it's a journey. You often evolve and you're often letting one go and finding someone new as you both grow in different ways. So for me, to find it what I do next in terms of marketing, that's what I do. I try to find the right production company. And I think what you're also getting at, the thing I do absolutely next is start writing something else. I am not one to have 4 scripts open at once. A lot of people do. I think the reason I can write so fast and production companies, people like that, because I was a journalist that every day I told a story. I'd come in at 10 in the morning, I'd get my story, and I was usually live on the news reporting at 5, 6, and 11. So I had to retell a story and out of the blue. It'd be like, you're an expert in water rights, you're an expert in global warming, whatever it might be. I had to get interviews, I had to write it, I had to be on in front of the camera, be able to present, edit, shoot with my photographers. So that fast pace is really important. So I'm laser focused. I can crank out scripts. I love getting revision notes because then I feel like I'm part of a team. I do find feature writing very lonely and book writing worse because it's so much longer.
Yeah.
I feel like writing a feature film, it's great it's perfect if you are traveling or you have a life where you have a different, you have a family or you have a full-time job and you can do it late at night or early in the morning because you're not like in a TV writer room or have to be in a certain place. But I'm a collaborator. I just find it like, I can't wait till people mostly hate notes and they're like, oh, notes. I'm like, oh, whoa, yay. And yeah, sure. Sometimes, the notes are crazy, but they're going to be just like, you as a writer are crazy. We're all creatives. So I just got notes right before this call, which I loved. And I still kind of go, wait, what? And usually mine's more for clarity. And I've learned not to have that gut reaction of, oh, they're killing my baby. That one of the darlings that we say when they say, get rid of that scene or something. And you're just like, oh, I've just learned to, well, first of all, a sidebar, whenever they have you get rid of scenes and you're heartbroken, have a document that's your dumpster scenes. That's what I do.
Right.
I move it over there and tell myself it will be in another movie someday or a book.
Right.
It's not gone. It's gone from the story because it didn't serve it, but it is still alive.
Right.
And it helps you cut it. But yeah, so I think the biggest thing is getting your script, not sitting on it for 7 years, editing it a million times, because guys, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to edit it a million times after you sell it. So, get it out there in the world when it's ready and then start on something else immediately that's speaking to you that you're passionate about. And if you're lucky enough to do multiple projects, I am right now for the first time doing multiple projects in different areas. So when I did the coloring book, that was something that I could do late at night. It was different than my early morning creative writing. And then I also do travel. So if I was, working on a travel video or researching travel, I could do that a different time of day. But I will schedule my day like, here's my screenwriting, one script. Then I might be travel Karen. Then I might be Christmas camp Karen, but I don't plan, the same thing. I don't have 4 scripts open at the same time on my desktop.
Oh,
ever.
that, oh, good, good. Well, you mentioned a team and connecting with producers. How would you suggest screenwriters expand their network of producers? And do you suggest networking film markets? If so, which ones? Competitions or utilizing online platforms?
Oh, gosh, these are such great questions. I love this. Well, I
Mm.
think I can give advice on what I did and that worked well for me that I think was authentic. And I wasn't living in LA, and so for me, what I did is research is my happy place and where I feel most in control. And I think this makes sense for anybody, even if you're new to research. If you have a movie, I'm going to use romantic comedies and
Okay,
Christmas because that's what we're talking about. But
right.
if you have a Christmas story, so it makes sense to first of all watch. You'd be surprised. I remember Hallmark telling me when I very first met with them how shocked they were that people would come in for meetings and not know their brand. Like maybe there'd be
Mm,
swearing or sex or something like that. And they were like, "Did you watch one of our movies? Do you know who we are?" Which don't do that, people. Don't do that. Bad, bad. You really want to know who you're sending it to. So you're going to be watching, you're going to be researching. If you can get your hands on scripts, you want to read as many scripts as you possibly
right,
can. I mean,
right.
that's so powerful because you kind of see how what you can see here is on the page. And so what I do then, I go onto IMDb. It's free, the database. I spend a little extra for the IMDb Pro because I find it's worth that. I think $10 a month. Or maybe a little more, maybe 20, but it's not a lot. But what it does is it opens up. So when you're asking about how do you research, I'll put in, we could use mine like a Christmas Prince, and it'll come up not only the actors and the writer, it'll come up the production company, and there'll be names and all the executive producers and producers. You can click on
Right.
them and it goes to their page. And oftentimes they have their email information. If not, you can certainly Google it. It's not brain surgery. For Karen Shaler, it could be K Shaler at, or it could be, the said
Right, right,
production
right,
company name.
right,
And
right,
so that's what I did. I really recommend no matter what. I believe if you're not repped, you don't, and even when you are repped, because help your reps, do the work
right,
as well.
right.
But to research the people making your movies, research who you respect, research like you're like, oh, I'm going here all the time. It wouldn't make much sense to me, and I'm just using this as a terrible analogy, it pops in my head. But if I'm a news person that I love ABC News and the style of ABC News, and I'm going to apply for a job, I'm not going to research CBS. That's a totally
Right,
different vibe,
right, right.
So it would be a different pitch. It'd be totally different. So it's the same with movies. If you're writing a really sweet romantic comedy, you might not be taking it to Hulu when there's no real comedy and it's, a
Right,
certain
right,
budget and what have you. But if you have a $25 million really high stakes kind of romantic comedy and it's in all these exotic locations and there's drinking, drugs, rock and roll, you're not going to take that to Hallmark. So it's your
right,
job
right.
to research the production companies. And what I do, a simple tip is I go onto IMDb, I pick my top 10 movies. You could do it right now for romantic comedies that have been made in just the last 2 or 3 years. You can just make the list, you can start writing down, and especially when you look at Christmas, you will find the same production companies come
Right,
up
right.
over and over and over. I'm making the statistic up. Someone should come on and give the
No,
actual statistic,
yeah,
but it's got to
yeah.
be like 65%. There's like 4 or 5 companies that make 65% of them. And then
I,
there's a
yeah,
bunch of independent, other producers, one-offs that are doing them. But it really is a very, very, very small world. And once you make one for a network, like in my case, Lifetime called me in. Usually I would go through a production company. Like I would pitch, they would take my work in to Lifetime. But in this
okay.
case, Lifetime called me in. So then the next year I pitched and, just with what we call with Lifetime, I was able to pitch a log line in a one sheet, kind of a summary
Mm,
of the story. And they didn't, none of it really sparked with them. A couple of it was early in the year, but they called me and said, wait, we have something. Will you do this? They said, we want a snowflake festival. And I'm like, all right. And they go, and there could be sisters. And okay. And that's
okay.
all I had. Snowflake festival and sisters, which became my rediscovering Christmas that came out for Lifetime in 2019. And the reason they called me, to be clear, was because I had done the research prior to get my script to them because I knew a script I had was exactly what they were making. Just like that producer that made A Christmas Prince said, this is exactly what I do. That wasn't a coincidence. So I
Right,
think
right.
99% is writing, people think, but I say 99% is what you do after it's written. It's finding the right people, getting it into the right hands, and then being a writer that people want to work with. So if there's revisions and things that need to be done, that they pick you, because on the big budget movies, you hear about it all the time. They'll buy your script. And the hardest thing for new writers, including myself, they buy your script. You think, well, they love it. Yay. And they have you revise it. And they go, okay, we're going to bring on another writer or a comedy writer, or we're going to bring on somebody else. I've been so lucky that hasn't happened with me, but it happens only because I've only done a few movies, but it happens all the time. And you can't take it personally. You have to think, my idea sold it. And now the next person's going to zhuzh it, whatever it takes to get it made and to bring it to the best it can be. And oftentimes it's very different from the original script. So again, if you're hearing this and going, oh no, but I love my story, don't do that. Can't you put it in the contract that I'm the only writer?
No.
You can, but it probably won't be upheld and no one's going to sign it. In the Writers Guild, you can't even guarantee that. And again, unless you are one of the top 1% writers, and still it's very rare. Because what is it, the Marvel movies have had 30, 40 writers or some crazy thing, right?
Yeah,
and so that's the thing. And that's why I say write a book. In my case, I also did an Audible original. The Audible reached out and wanted a rom-com kind of in the same vein of the uplifting, sweet, heartfelt. And they knew that's what I wrote. So they reached out. And so, I think that's the biggest thing. It's not impossible. I did it, you guys. If I can do it, you can do it. I did not. I want to always say this. I didn't know anyone in Hollywood. I did not have an agent or manager. I don't have any family members. I'm not a Nepo baby. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you are someone that has a family member by blood that can introduce you, you gotta bring it. I'm saying you need to earn the job, but I'm all for introductions, but I don't have any of that. So I can do it. I think the reason people kind of sparked to being interested in my stories, they're like, oh my gosh, she didn't know anything. And she did 4 movies in a couple years. And when I say didn't know anything, I mean, didn't know anyone.
Right.
That's really what it ends up being. But I will say a script is your best friend. A good script will find a way because people need stories. The head of Hallmark, it was 5, 6, 7 years ago now. Gosh, time's flying. I lost the time with COVID. But I remember reading somewhere, and I'm not going to quote him correctly at the time. It was Bill Abbott. And I think he talked about how there were so many, great writers, but an original idea and story, that's what's hard to find. That person that brings that original idea. So if you're the person with the original idea, that's why you want to write the whole script so you protect yourself. You also want an entertainment attorney. So when, they give you the paperwork, you make sure you're protected as much as you can be. And at least if you're giving things up or another writer might come on to help out, you understand it. You're expectations, you're not devastated, the first time something like that happens, because I feel like that's what they don't do is warn enough people. People think when they buy the script, they love it and they're going to make it like that. And it's really hard, when they are like, nope, not going to make it like that. And, I'll be honest, and I had good experiences, but I know I never know when my movies were coming out exactly. Like a lot of times I didn't know the date, Lifetime told me. But Hallmark's very secretive, even with their actors. Funny. I remember the director of Christmas Camps. When's our movie coming out? I'm like, you were the director. You were on it last. I didn't even get to go to set. I don't know. Actors were calling me. I'm like, I don't know any of y'all. I haven't met you. But they thought because I was a writer, I might have it. Okay. And they do that. I can't speak, of course, for Hallmark, but I believe what's been said is they do that because it's a big, this is who we have. And they have their announcements for marketing. That said, people are shocked when they go, what do you mean you don't know when your movie's coming out? I'm like, when they announce it, I hear. When it comes up, when you all hear is when I hear. So I think those are some of the behind the curtain things that hopefully will help people listening kind of be fascinated a little bit more, because I think that's what I share, what I wish I had heard, if that makes sense. I think of everything. I'm like, man, I wish I'd had a Karen that talked too fast and she might tell me all the goods.
No, you mentioned research, and you're obviously a self-starter. You've made these connections. Do you attend film markets to pitch your projects, or do you rely on a representative, and in your case, your lawyer, or a combination of both?
Great. All those great questions. I have never attended one of the marketplaces, and I've never had anyone attend for me. That's just not, because I've been in the Christmas world, that's not how I've sold movies. And so, for me, it's sold straight to the network or streamer that's buying it, or to a production company. That's how I was in. But I will say the one I can speak to is I was asked to speak, I think after that first year, at the Austin Film Festival. And there's a lot of film festivals, but the Austin one is for writers. And I went and I was so lucky. It was a panel that it was going to be televised. I should know this. Oh dear, where was it televised? It was televised. And it was myself as a Christmas writer of A Christmas Prince, Netflix's first original, which was their thing. Then it was also the writer of Elf, which was so awesome.
Wow.
Yes. And then, like 20 something years, I think we just had our Elf anniversary. And then it was also another Netflix writer that had written why did I just blank? Christmas Chronicles.
Oh, okay.
So it was really a broad section. And it's because what happened was Christmas was always Hallmark's thing. And then all of a sudden, things blew up. A lot of people said, well, gosh, when Netflix started to get into Christmas movies, became more mainstream, these very cute, cuddly, some say corny, cheesy romantic comedies. And it turns out people of all ages loved them. It wasn't just the traditional Hallmark demographic. So then everybody jumped in. Everybody's like, I want Christmas. So that year at the Austin Film Festival, it was a hot topic. It was a great panel. We had great questions, a lot similar to what you're asking, because they were the kind of questions that were interesting, but they were also to help other people, not let's just hear Karen's journey, but how can my journey help somebody else that's listening, that's thinking that maybe they want to do this, or they just love Christmas movies and they want to hear what it's like. And I think then we appreciate it more too. And I always say we really need to, the writer, I'm a member of the Writers Guild. So yes, I was on strike last year. I'm also a member of the Writers Guild Canada. I'm American, but my first Lifetime movie was shot in Canada. So I became a member of that union.
Okay.
It's a sister union. And it's easier to get into the Writers Guild Canada than it is Writers Guild US. Another little secret, if you're in the Guild Canada first, it's easier to get into the US and cheaper because you pay the Canadian. It's a difference of a couple $1,000s. Yes. I think, don't quote me, it might have changed, but it was like whatever the guild is normally to get in, let's say a couple $1,000s in the US. If you're already in the Canadian Guild, which was very affordable, a couple $100, I think it's only $500 to get in.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear.
So a lot of people go, "Ooh, there's a great way to get in."
Yeah.
I'm also a member of SAG-AFTRA, the AFTRA side, from being an on-air presenter and a newscaster. So basically, I was on strike all the way around, and Canada was also ready to go on strike. So as a writer, I respect, obviously, my fellow writers so much. And the thing that I think, because coming from an outsider and later in life into screenwriting, I'm always shocked. Just like the teachers that teach doctors the teachers make minimum wage, but the doctors they teach make millions. I mean, I never understood that. And I'm like, wait, we started without us. We create it. We start the world that gives everyone a job, and we're just trying to get a livable wage, not doing politics here, because we got our strike. We're good. And we're going to keep fighting. I mean, there's a lot more that we need to do, but I feel like, writers, I love doing these podcasts and I love doing these interviews because I love when people go, I had no idea this is what it was like. They think that we get to pick our actors. Now TV's different. TV meaning a TV series. If I was doing a TV series, writers have a lot more, just like a playwright, you have a lot more control depending on where you're at, where yes, you have a say. But as a feature writer, the director is the boss. So you often write it, it's handed off. You get notes, hopefully you're the one that stays on and you get notes and you work with the team, but the director and the network streamer, they'll be making the big decisions. You do not get to say, I want this actor, again, I'm talking about generally speaking, there's always that outlier or some unique circumstance. And as long as you know it going in, that's okay. And that's why I say, once you have one movie, write another. Because don't get too attached to one and spend 9 years when it's your baby. Because when it changes or when you do sell it, knowing this collaboration will take place, it's going to be really hard for you when these changes happen. To where if you love a movie so much, I mean, don't we all love once you write something, you love it. I fall in love with all of them. This is my best one yet. And then I write the next one. This is my best.
Yeah, this is my best one yet.
I do it every time. And then people ask me my favorite, and it's like my travel therapy show. I'm like, it depends. It depends on the mood. Do you want to laugh? Do you want to be heartfelt? Do you want to be introspective? It just sort of depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, so I think that's a very long answer as well too. I haven't been to any of the markets. Have you?
I have, but as I mentioned before we started recording, I did some Asian projects, and unless I want to go overseas, to meet these producers, the best time to meet them was in LA when they came here.
Oh, smart.
I did go to Hong Kong and China a few times, and who knows, maybe I'll go back. But
what would you say? Would you say it's worth it for writers? Because I want to give them advice because I can't speak on that.
I think my take on, some people aren't really a big fan of the American film market because they, first of all, they moved locations, and the new hotel, some people had some complaints about it. I don't know what they're going to do this year.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to go to the AFM, maybe you don't need to be there all 3 days, maybe just one day, because trying to go up and down, like anything, if you're trying to get a meeting without an appointment, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
People don't want to see you because they're there to sell, not to buy pitches.
Right.
So, but if you can get meetings beforehand, great, or at least just say hi, I'll call you after the market.
Exactly. I was just going to say, hand off your business card at maybe over cocktails or something, just that meet and greet, and then follow up. That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because being in person, it always makes a little bit of a difference, know. So
I think a big difference.
Yeah.
Zoom has been the hardest thing for me for pitching. Like, I'll come into a room, and I guess it's as a reporter, I had to land on a crime scene and decide pretty quickly, is this police officer, is he one I can chit chat with? Is he like this? I mean, I had to read the room every day on the field.
Right.
How hot is this situation? I mean, am I going to get shot at? How close can I get? How much can I push for an interview? Yeah, there was always things. So when I go into a room to pitch, I love pitching because I love talking to people, and I love if I'm in there, I have a story that I love and that I want everyone to love. And so I'm just like, I can read the room if they're like rolling their eyes, looking at their watch, not paying attention. I'm like, zip it. Change topics, ask if they have questions. But on Zoom, it's so hard, And so because I'm like this, I'm looking at different squares or trying to figure it out. I just find it hard to read a room in Zoom. And so I think, like, to your point, if I can meet someone in person for 5 minutes, they won't forget, they might go, okay, wait, she talked a lot, or she's blonde and bubbly, or whatever they might add a character description to me. But at least then when I follow up with an email, which you always do, great meeting you at, then you can start the business side of the relationship.
Right. Well, let's jump from crime scenes, which can be stressful, to this next question. Getting a movie made can be stressful. How do you maintain a work-life balance, and do you have any hobbies?
Well, when I can figure out how to maintain a life period, I will let you know. No, I joke a little. Since COVID, obviously, it's been hard. I've shared a little. I don't share too much for my dad's privacy, but my dad has some health problems. And so I've given up not given up, that's a terrible word. I have dedicated a lot of time to that. And so I don't have a lot of spare time, but that said, I'm blessed because I do what I do because I love it. So when you say like a hobby, my hobby would be like writing a screenplay, like yay. But I do have some hobbies. So how do I de-stress? Well, I have 3 tips that I do every day. No matter where I am, I walk every morning. Now I get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. because I write before the world gets in the way. Especially when I talk about whether it's my dad, all of us have family issues, whatever issue it might be, even if you're on a movie set and you want to work on the next one. So I get up and I write first thing in the morning, and I go for a walk. This started with COVID. I used to live in Manhattan full time, and I would walk Central Park as well. And that was great because I was right across the street from Central Park, and you'd be in the crazy of Manhattan, but you could go and there's, those little squirrels and there's birds chirping. And I grew up in Washington State, camping, hiking, the outdoors kind of nature nurtures definitely applies to me, which is the same with travel. So travel is my therapy, which is why I started my traveltherapytrips.com website and that whole brand. So if I can go on a trip somewhere, my 2 of my books, when I got the deal or I got the movie, I went to a foreign country, rented a home in a tiny town, someplace that one was Portugal, one was Costa Bravo, Spain, or Blanco, Spain, excuse me. And I had this tiny little community. I was in this town called Oliao in Portugal, in a town called Altea in Spain. And I lived like a local. I would write for 4 or 5 hours a day, and then I'd go into town for dinner, So that's how I refuel is travel. But that sounds expensive, and it's not, because the towns I'm talking about are like, you can rent a home for $1,000 a month, really inexpensive, and really live frugally as well. So I definitely do that if I can travel. But with COVID, when that happened, that started my walks where, okay, I'm going to go for a walk every morning. It's like a mental health thing that I do. I write as much as I can. I love, obviously, watching movies, the latest, greatest. I'm blessed to be in the Writers Guild, so I'll get a lot of screeners, during award seasons. I try to read as many scripts. So that's sort of a blessing when I get a time to do that. I don't watch or read other people's Christmas scripts usually when I'm in one, because I don't want all of a sudden an ornament hanging on a tree to get stuck in my head and I put it in my
Right.
story, because there's
Right.
so much crossover on Christmas scripts. So I'm very careful. I keep my brain, I call it clean. So when I'm writing Christmas, I don't anyway, because I live the world. I don't watch any of the violence shows.
Mm.
I try to watch people related shows, and I totally admit it, but I'll watch reality TV. I'm watching The Bachelor right now because I like seeing how couples interact. I like seeing, whether it's
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
TV or not, the budding relationships. I think it keeps me young. So I'll watch the Netflix shows, some of the dating shows, or I got hooked on the baking show on
Right. Right.
Netflix.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't even bake, but I got hooked on that. And I will say before I forget, because I know we have other questions that we have to get to, but it was because of that as well. But prior to that, all of my books in the back, I put recipes, and it's because I'm so visceral when I
Okay.
write. There's always like a special Christmas cookie, and this was my nod to family and friends, and many that I have lost that have now are up in heaven. And so I'm like, oh, this was my stepdad's favorite cookie, so I'm going to immortalize his favorite cookie in my story. And then I put the cookie recipe. So all of
Oh.
my books have Christmas recipe and activities. And so after when COVID hit, I was doing these Christmas camps where I took my Hallmark movie
Mm.
and books and I turned them into real life experiential events at resorts and hotels. So you come
Mm.
to the Phoenician in Phoenix, Arizona. We sold out 400 room nights, and it's like
Wow.
10 days of activities where you
Holy
feel like you're
cow.
living in a Christmas movie. You come one day, 10
Wow.
days. We're bringing them back at different places. So stay tuned. Make sure to follow
Yeah.
me on my website,
Yeah, you bet.
KarenTaylor.com. We'll talk about that. But when I did the recipes and during COVID, we couldn't do Christmas camp. So it was so sad because we had done 2 years in a row. So much fun. Even the Today Show came, did a big TV segment on it. It was so great. So I started making what I called the DIY Christmas camp guide. And it started out as like 7 or 8 pages, which was recipes from and activities from my books. And
Okay.
now it's like 28, 30 pages because it's all the different shows, all the different things. And it's free and you can download it on my website, and we'll give the
Cool.
website at the end. And it's just so people can have recipes. I have my book up there. I have little tidbits of stuff and people really like it. And this year, because my coloring book, I put 10 free coloring pages to kind of
Okay.
give people an
Nice.
idea, of what that was about. And it's fun for me because it also keeps me current of, I always have to come up with a new recipe. So I was just lucky enough. Rachel Bloom is a wonderful Christmas author, and she invited me that she does a takeover page during the month of July for Christmas in July. So I took over her page yesterday,
Oh,
and I
okay.
always get material and they know it. So I asked, what's your favorite Christmas tradition? What's your favorite Christmas cookie? And I literally have more than 1,000 answers. And then I'm like, wait, what's a lemon snowflake? Or, oh my gosh, I love this activity,
Yeah.
And it's also, besides connecting, which I love, but it gives me ideas for my stories. So I think
Right,
I'm always
right.
gathering information because that connection, whether I'm in a group of people, surrounded by people or isolated during COVID, as long as I'm bringing in and learning new information and connecting in some way, I think that's, to me, that's what really helps.
Yeah. I love your hobbies, walking, number one, walking, two, the travel to refuel, and three, recipes. For me, the recipe someone would have to cook for me because I'm not a cook. I'm not a
Well,
cook.
I'll be clear. I shouldn't say cooking. I should say
Uh,
baking. And
Baking. Okay.
even that, I'm trying to be healthy and not eat sweet. So I take them all to my dad and
Yeah,
his
there you go.
friends. I,
There
I,
you
I
go.
literally just took this double fudge Ghirardelli chocolate brownies with cream cheese frosting. How does that sound,
Oh,
guys?
I'm getting
Yes, I
hungry.
created a recipe. So I think that's a great way to relax. Plus, in New York, when I was there, I did not have a kitchen. I mean, very New York,
Yeah.
tiny, tiny little place. And I am now in Scottsdale, Arizona. I go back and forth from LA, New York, and here where my dad is. And my place here, I have a kitchen. So I'm like,
Oh,
woohoo, let's
yeah.
cook, let's bake.
Now, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh, it's a hard one. Oh, I really have to think about that. There'd be so much. I'd be talking so much. My younger self would get up and walk away, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Like, shut up. I think the biggest one in this industry is just to keep believing in yourself. And I know that sounds cliche, but specifically to fight for what you believe in, whether it's a story idea and 10 people tell you no, don't give up. How many times have you heard all the famous stories, the Harry Potter? I mean, all the stories of people told
Right.
no over and over and over again before they
Right.
sold something. And also believe in yourself. If someone does something wrong and you need to fight for yourself and you need to stick up
Right.
for yourself, definitely
Right.
get help with an attorney. But I think that's probably my most important, that I would have told myself that I think, okay, I've never really done this. So this is interesting. I think I would tell myself that just because you're honest and hardworking and will do it right doesn't mean that other people will.
Right.
And to be ready with a response when they aren't. Because
Right.
I think I believed, and I gave a voice to people for so many years that didn't have a voice for themselves as a crime and investigative reporter. So when I transitioned to screenwriting, I thought this was going to be, I'm writing Christmas movies, for goodness sakes. This is going to be fluffy, warm, so happy. And this is going to be kind of a soothing to me, to the world I'd been in. But like any business, it's rough, and I wasn't prepared for that. I think I had expectations, and I think that I always fight for what's right. I don't know how not to. It's in my blood. It's what I've done my entire career in journalism and continue to. And I think in Hollywood, sometimes fighting for what's right and fair, it can be really tough. You can get labeled as a troublemaker. I mean, we've seen it, right, with the Me Too movement and all the different things that have, happened to people, that people are afraid to come forward. They're afraid to speak. And so I think I would tell my younger self that it's not, just because you're working hard and you're doing it all right, it's not, when it gets hard, get people around you. You can't do it alone, but keep going. And so I'm going to have to think of a better answer, a shorter way to say that. And this is just really like from the heart, where I think when things first happen, where things go sideways, and they will. And by the way, it's not just Hollywood. Any career will, unless you are a hermit. Even when you live by yourself, you have to sell something at some point. Something will go awry, because that's the world. That's our life. But I think that I've been on my own for so long that I, again, not repped, right? That I just thought you think you can handle it. And I think when you can't by yourself and you need help, I think you need to get help. Whether that be a lawyer, whether that be friends and family to tell your story to, whatever that might be, you need not to be afraid. And I think as a younger self, I just thought I could conquer it all. Like I could do it all. I could do it. I'm good. I'm going to work hard and research, and I can do anything. And I still believe that anyone can do anything, but I believe that we need to stick up for what's right. And we need to have people on our side to help us, kind of our gladiators, so to speak.
Yeah. Excellent advice. Excellent.
Oh, I hope so. I really, thank you for asking that, Karen. I've never been asked that. And it kind of takes me it's almost like therapeutic, where you think of the younger Karen, like, what would I wrap my arms around her and say to her, and I'd always say to everybody, it's going to be all right, but it's not always going to be easy.
Right. Exactly. Now, to wrap up, would you like to share any social media details or website links, so our audience can keep track of your varied work?
I would love to do that.
The Karen universe.
The Karen, I love that. The Christmas Karen, the Christmas Karen universe of, Christmas camp. Yes, I'm just drinking water. Hold on. Because I'm in Scottsdale and I turned off my air conditioning, we are airing this in the summer, my place will get to be like, I'll start sweating. I'll just say glistening, you'll start noticing me glistening. So it's perfect timing. So, well, first of all, I encourage everyone, if you love Christmas movies and books, beyond mine even, but if you love the Christmas recipes and activities, be sure to go to KarenShaler.com. So it's my name, and you can just scroll down there. You can see movie clips, you can see books, but most importantly, on that homepage, you'll see next to this book, it's one of my coloring books that's out, actually all of it, it says free gift right at the top. Just scroll down to a big red button. That's where you can download my DIY Christmas camp guide. I also have an Amazon shop where I put all my books and movies, so it's one link, which is really easy, plus the gear that I use because I do my travel shows. But before I go on that, I also have 3 free Christmas books if you're in Kindle Unlimited. So these are my books. Like Every Day is Christmas is not there yet because this one just came out, but it will be. Oh, I shouldn't have told people. Shh. It absolutely, everyone knows it is, the next year it comes out. So I have 3 of my books in there. So it's free in Kindle Unlimited, or this is the online. It's discounted to like $4.99. I did write this summer a fun little novella rom-com called Royal Extra After. It's about a real life modern princess in New York who has taken a trip over to Central Park. It's her first time in the city, kind of representing her family. And they're shooting a Bridgerton royal scene, and it's all wrong. Like, no, you don't wear, crowns this time of day. You don't wear this. And she gets into it with the director telling him this is not the way it works. And so you can imagine the royal hijinks with paparazzi and all these kind of things that are going on.
Great.
It was just fun. And so I had that free like a week ago. It's only 99 cents and it's on Amazon. And so those are my fun freebies. If you love travel, I'm switching hats here. And also
Okay.
on KarenShaler.com, you can find out more about Christmas camp. I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter list. I should send out more, but I send out maybe 2 or 3 a year. This is not a
Okay.
weekly newsletter. It's when I have a new movie, a new book, or a new project or something free
Okay.
where I'm telling
Okay.
y'all, get this, it's free. It's
Yeah.
not me chit-chatting about life, although we should do that. No kidding.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. But if you'd like, that's where I tell people about the latest releases, or like if I'm going to go, I do a public appearances or where I'm at or things like that. And so definitely sign up for the newsletter. And then on the travel side, my website is traveltherapytrips.com.
Okay.
And that I've been to, I think I have 200 different travel videos. You can even say, am I stressed? Do I want romance? Do I want a spa? Do I want a foodie vacation? And my YouTube channel, I'm revamping it as we speak. Give me about a week, but it's YouTube Travel Therapy TV. And there's also that same category where you can kind of look things up depending on where you're at. And so, and I always say too, I love it when people check my IMDb page, because I feel like, especially in Christmas, you can see what I'm talking about because you'll see my Christmas movies. You'll also see how I am down for, I wrote A Christmas Prince and it started the franchise that we had 2 more movies. I did not write those 2 movies because I was writing at that time, was writing Christmas Camp and the Lifetime movie with Toni Braxton. Plus I'd gotten a book deal with HarperCollins for my first Christmas book. So I did not, but you will see my name as characters created by, because I did create characters.
Right.
So I always am saying, you'll see, it looks like I even did more Christmas movies than I have, but hopefully we'll be adding to that, because I'm continually, right now I'm talking to 2 and 3 different people and different aspects. I'm talking to some folks that actually directly that buy it, meaning a streamer or network. I'm talking with, I have a couple options out with production companies. I met a great producer I'm really excited about. We're talking, we've talked, and I'm giving her a script tomorrow, as a matter of fact, Christmas and beyond. So yeah, it's been hard out there in Hollywood, everyone says, and it's true. I don't discount that. It's been, I think, hard for more than a year before the strike happened. But you got to get out there. You got to just keep making connections and doing what you love. And that's what I'm doing, just as fast, as hard as I can. And if it's a day where I don't have joy, I'll just put on Christmas music and have my little mixtape, and play Christmas music, light a Christmas candle and have a good time, So that, I know it sounds corny, but I think Christmas in July, the reason we do this is because not just the halfway point, but especially when the world's very challenging, and it seems like it has been, this is a place to escape. It's a place we all come together. And I should mention, okay, so Facebook, it's Karen Shaler Official. Please follow me on Facebook, because that's where I do all these fun little podcasts and also lives and giveaways. And TikTok I've started doing, which I'm having so much fun. And I literally answer questions about screenwriting. So a lot of people find me there. It started during the strike, where you just send me a question and I'm walking. I'm not saying I look pretty, but I'm just walking in my morning walk I told you about, and I'll answer your question. So send me a question, follow me on TikTok. And that's Karen Shaler. X, otherwise known as Twitter, is Karen Shaler. Facebook official, and Instagram, I'm at Travel Therapy, because I started it when I started my TV show. And you're going to start seeing, right now, you're going to see my little book. There's a book tour for Royal Extra After going on right now with wonderful influencers, and influencers meaning there's different terminology for that, but they are people that truly love books and share their stories. So you'll see a lot of posts, like that right now. But I'd say I'm probably going forward will be most active on TikTok. Yes, I know there's, and well, Karen, there's always questions about TikTok, China, all of those things, but there's so much going on. I just tell people, don't put any of your personal, information you don't want the world to know on any of your social media.
Right.
So, yeah, I love to connect. I love doing this. Karen, thank you so much for having me on. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I was so excited when you reached out. And I encourage everyone listening and watching to stay tuned to the channel, because she is doing so many great things and bringing on so many fun people.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for this this chance, first of all, to connect, and thank you for this exciting, very informative interview, and thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a pleasure, and Merry early Christmas, everyone, no matter what time of year you're listening to this.
Yes, and I hope we meet in person someday soon.
I agree. Soon.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye, Karen. And now for my action checklist. I have 3 items from my chat with Karen. Number 1, tailor email queries. Now, we know this, but it bears repeating. You need to personalize your outreach. Tailor your email queries to a specific person and their specific preferences and styles of the companies you're targeting. Avoid generic emails. Show that you've researched the company and then mention your title and logline and try to keep your title within 4 words. Diversify your income streams. This is very unique, and it's something you should consider. First, avoid attachment to one script. Don't spend years perfecting a single script. Get it into the market and then start working on a new project. Consider diversifying your work, like creating new products. And for example, Karen has a line of adult coloring books, as well as a travel therapy show, which is you can catch on YouTube. So these diversified products will really increase your market presence. And number 3, get your script into the right hands. Now, this is a little bit related to number 1, but you have to do strategic targeting. Focus on the few companies out there that produce the majority of Christmas movies and really look at the brand of Christmas movies that aligns with your script. And what I mean by that is, what type of Christmas movie are they making? Is it the Christmas royalty one, which is sort of a Cinderella story where the young woman meets the prince? And then there's the Christmas fake out, which is sort of like a rent a boyfriend story. There's also the Christmas switcheroo, where 2 women trade places. And then there's the hometown Christmas, where the city girl goes back to the country home. And lastly, there's the magic Christmas, where there's literal Christmas magic, like angels, time travel, or Santa intervenes in some way. 99% of your success depends on what you do after you write the script. So ensure you're getting it into the hands of the right people and building a reputation as a writer others want to work with. Well, that's the show. Thanks for listening. To show your support, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. You can fuel more great content by buying me a hot cocoa on Buy Me a Coffee. Just look for the page Christmas Movie, and explore other inspiring podcasts and blogs on our website, which is christmasmoviescreenwriter.com. I'm your host, Karen McCann. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next Christmas Movie Screenwriter podcast. Bye.